Hello friends, my name is Ryan. I'm going to tell you a story named Airline Catastrophe, the final moments of Flight 191, which is a very amazing story full of twists. So, let's start. It was a bright, clear day in Chicago when Flight 191 prepared for its journey. The passengers boarded with the usual mix of excitement and apprehension that accompanies air travel. Business people carrying laptops and documents, families with children clutching stuffed toys, and couples whispering plans for their vacations filled the cabin. To everyone, this was just another flight, an ordinary trip to their respective destinations. Little did they know that they were stepping into an extraordinary tale of tragedy, mystery, and unanswered questions. Captain Jack Reynolds was an experienced pilot with a calm demeanor that reassured even the most anxious passengers. His first officer, Linda Hart, was known for her sharp instincts and precision. Together, they made a solid team. The flight attendants moved through the aisle, offering warm smiles and helping passengers settle in. The hum of the engine started to fill the cabin as the plane taxied to the runway. Everything seemed routine, but as the plane gained speed for takeoff, something felt off. The ground crew at the terminal noticed a strange vibration from the left engine. They waved their arms, trying to signal the cockpit, but it was too late. Flight 191 lifted off the ground, carrying its passengers and secrets into the sky. Inside the cockpit, Captain Jack and Linda felt the jolt almost immediately. The left engine had failed catastrophically, and a chain reaction of malfunctions began. Alarms blared, red lights flashed on the control panel, and the calm demeanor of the crew was replaced with focused urgency. Linda reported the situation to air traffic control, her voice steady but tense. "Mayday, Mayday. We've lost an engine." Attempting to return to the airport. Passengers clutched their armrests as the plane shuddered violently. Some prayed, others tried to comfort their loved ones, and a few sat frozen in shock. Flight attendants hurried to reassure everyone, masking their own fear with professional calm. But amidst the chaos, one passenger, a middle-aged man named Richard, seemed oddly composed. He sat by the window, his gaze fixed on the wing. His lips moved as if he was muttering something under his breath. The plane struggled to stay airborne. The loss of the left engine had compromised the hydraulic systems, making it difficult to control. Captain Jack fought with the controls, his hands gripping the yoke tightly. Linda monitored the instruments, trying to find a solution in the dwindling time they had. "We need to lighten the load," she said, her voice urgent. They began dumping fuel, hoping to improve their chances of a safe landing. But then, something inexplicable happened. Passengers near the left wing reported seeing a strange shadow moving against the sunlight. It wasn't the shadow of the plane or the clouds. It seemed alive. Whispers spread through the cabin as more people noticed it. The shadow moved erratically, as if it had a mind of its own, and then vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Richard, the composed man by the window, finally spoke up. His voice was low but carried an unsettling weight. "It's not the engine. Someone, doesn't want us to land." His words sent a chill through the passengers around him. A young woman sitting across the aisle asked nervously, "What do you mean?" Richard hesitated before replying. "I've seen this before. Not on a plane, but on a ship. It's a curse. A shadow of someone who's trapped between worlds. They latch onto a vessel, causing chaos until their story is heard." The woman's eyes widened in fear. "What story? Who?" Richard shook his head. "I don't know. But they're here, and they won't let go until we listen." Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Captain Jack and Linda were unaware of the eerie events unfolding in the cabin. They were focused on the technical battle to save the plane. "We're losing altitude," Linda said, her voice strained. "We need to land now." As the plane descended, the shadow reappeared, this time visible to everyone. It slid across the cabin walls, defying logic and physics. People screamed, clutching each other in terror. The lights flickered, and the cabin grew cold, as if the air itself was being drained of life. Richard stood up, his face pale but determined. "It's trying to communicate." Everyone, listen! The shadow coalesced near the front of the cabin, forming a vague humanoid shape. A faint voice echoed through the space, garbled and indistinct. Richard closed his eyes, focusing. It's saying something about flight. A missed flight. A lost chance. Passengers looked at each other, confused and terrified. One elderly woman suddenly gasped. "I know what it is," she cried. "My husband, he was on a flight just like this. Years ago. He never made it. The plane crashed. He said he'd come back for me." Her voice broke as she sobbed. The shadow seemed to respond, moving closer to the woman. The air grew heavier, and a sense of profound sadness filled the cabin. Richard stepped forward, addressing the shadow. "You're lost," he said softly. "You're holding on to the pain of what happened. But you don't belong here anymore. Let go." The shadow hesitated, its form flickering. The voice grew louder, clearer. "Home. I want to go home." Captain Jack's voice came over the intercom. "Brace for impact. We're making an emergency landing." The cabin erupted into chaos again as everyone prepared for the worst. But Richard remained focused on the shadow. "We'll take you home," he promised. "Just let us land safely." The shadow seemed to consider this. Then, slowly, it dissolved, fading into nothingness. The temperature in the cabin returned to normal, and the lights stopped flickering. A collective sigh of relief swept through the passengers, but the danger was far from over. The plane skidded onto the runway, sparks flying as the pilots fought to keep it under control. Emergency vehicles raced alongside, ready to assist. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Flight 191 came to a halt. Cheers and tears filled the cabin as passengers hugged each other, grateful to be alive. Later, as the passengers disembarked, Richard stayed behind. He looked out the window at the setting sun, a faint smile on his lips. "His home," he murmured. The investigation into Flight 191's engine failure revealed no mechanical faults. The official report listed the cause as unexplained, leaving many to wonder what really happened that day. But for those who were on board, the answer was clear. It wasn't just a flight, it was a journey through the unknown. So, my friends, that's the story of Flight 191, a tale of mystery, courage, and the strange forces that sometimes intervene in our lives. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay safe and keep believing in the extraordinary.